Chapter 1: The Master of the Loom. In the heart of medieval Damascus, where the city pulsed with life and echoed with the chatter of merchants and travelers, there lived a humble weaver named Jameel. His workshop, a small but welcoming space, was tucked away in one of the narrow alleys of the city's famed souk. Damascus, known for its rich history and vibrant culture, was a place where the air was often filled with the intoxicating aroma of spices, cumin, cinnamon, and saffron mingled together, each scent telling its own story. The city was alive with the rhythm of life, the bustling markets, the sounds of hammers on metal, the distant call of merchants shouting their wares, and the gentle rustle of silk as it passed through Jameel's loom. Jameel was not an ordinary weaver, for his hands did not merely weave threads into cloth, he wove the very essence of his people's history, their struggles, their triumphs, and their dreams. Each piece he created was more than just fabric, it was a living testament to the shared stories of those who came before him and a vision for those who would come after. Jameel's craft was his life's calling, a sacred bond between him and the spirit of his ancestors. The weaver's most cherished creation was a tapestry known as the Carpet of Unity. This was no ordinary rug, but a masterpiece of intricate design and profound symbolism, depicting the history of the region. It was a stunning visual representation of the land's conquests, its resilience in the face of adversity, and most importantly, its harmonious coexistence of many peoples. The Carpet of Unity was a breathtaking blend of vibrant colors, deep red symbolizing the passion of the people, golden yellows representing the endless desert sands, and serene blues mirroring the flow of the Euphrates River. Olive branches were delicately woven into the fabric, their curves and leaves speaking of peace, while the vibrant threads intertwined to form intricate geometric shapes that represented unity. The fame of Jameel's work spread far beyond the borders of Damascus. Traders and scholars from distant lands came to his small shop, their eyes widening in awe when they gazed upon the tapestry. Word of the Carpet of Unity traveled like a whispered prayer, carried on the lips of those who had seen it, and soon visitors from as far as Andalusia and Persia arrived to witness the breathtaking beauty of the tapestry. Jameel's workshop was a sanctuary, a place where creativity flowed like the very threads he wove. The room was filled with the soft clatter of the loom, the rhythmic pulse of the shuttle passing through the threads, a sound that felt like the heartbeat of the city itself. Shelves, stacked high with spools of silk in every imaginable color, lined the walls of the small space. Every shade, from the brightest crimson to the deepest indigo, was carefully chosen by Jameel to represent a story, a memory, or a feeling. To him, each thread was not just a piece of material, it was imbued with a soul, and through his weaving, he connected the spirits of the past with the hopes of the future. Though his work was renowned, Jameel remained a humble man. Each morning, he would leave his workshop and walk through the bustling souk, greeting merchants and customers with a warm smile and a kind word. He was known for his generosity, often repairing old and worn-out tapestries for free and sharing his craft with the apprentices who showed an eagerness to learn. Jameel understood that his art was not just a means of livelihood, it was a gift, a way to give back to the community that had nurtured him from childhood. On one particularly warm afternoon, as Jameel was working on a particularly delicate section of the Carpet of Unity, a group of travelers entered his shop. They were scholars and traders from lands far and wide, men who had traveled across mountains, deserts, and seas. Their faces were etched with the wisdom of experience, but when they laid eyes on the tapestry, their expression softened, and a reverent silence filled the room. The tapestry seemed to speak to them, drawing them into its intricate threads and vibrant colors, and they were mesmerized. "This is more than art," one of the travelers whispered, his voice trembling with awe. "It is a bridge between worlds." Jameel smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride and humility. He invited the travelers to sit and offered them cups of steaming mint tea, a traditional Damascus hospitality. As they sipped the fragrant tea, Jameel explained the significance of his work. "Every thread here," he said, gesturing to the tapestry, "represents a tale of our people. Each pattern, each color, speaks to the struggles we have faced, the triumphs we have celebrated, and the unity that binds us all together. It is not just a piece of fabric, it is our history, our story, woven into one." The travelers marveled at the symbols woven into the design, golden threads that represented the boundless desert, the azure lines that mirrored the Euphrates River, and the intertwining olive branches that symbolized peace. One of the travelers, a poet, promised to take the story of the carpet of unity back to his homeland, ensuring that its message would spread far beyond the borders of Damascus. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the city began to quiet, Jameel would often sit by the flickering light of an oil lamp, sketching designs for his next masterpiece. He found inspiration in the stories that filled the souk, the merchant who spoke of his journey across treacherous mountains, the farmer who shared the joy of a bountiful harvest, and the mother who sang a lullaby to her child beneath the crescent moon. These stories, small and large, were the lifeblood of Jameel's art, reminding him that despite the challenges and divisions in the world, there was always beauty to be found in the shared human experience. However, the peaceful routine of his workshop was not without its interruptions. Whispers of discord and unrest began to filter into the city. News from neighboring emirates told of growing tensions and skirmishes along trade routes. A shadow of fear began to fall over Damascus, and Jameel could feel it deep within his heart. He understood how fragile the harmony depicted in his carpet of unity truly was. Yet, despite the looming threat of conflict, he refused to let fear consume him. He resolved to continue weaving, believing that his craft could be a light in the darkness, a beacon of hope in a time of uncertainty. The carpet of unity was nearing completion. Jameel worked tirelessly, his fingers moving with grace and precision, as if guided by an unseen force. Each thread was placed with purpose, each knot tied with intention. The tapestry, now nearing its final stages, was a visual symphony that reflected the rich diversity of the region. It was said that anyone who gazed upon it would feel an undeniable connection to their fellow humans, no matter their background, faith, or heritage. Unbeknownst to Jameel, his humble masterpiece was destined for a purpose far greater than he could have imagined. The threads he wove, each carrying the weight of history, culture, and identity, would soon become the symbol of something far beyond art. They carried within them the promise of a future where unity could triumph over division. And so, in his modest workshop, surrounded by the fragrant scents of silk and the soft click of the loom, Jameel unknowingly set the stage for a story that would transcend generations, a legacy that would endure long after the tapestry had been hung in the halls of kings and queens. The humble weaver, with his skill and vision, had begun to weave a future where the threads of unity could bind even the most divided of hearts. Chapter 2: A Kingdom in Disarray. The golden light of Damascus, which had once bathed the city in warmth and prosperity, now seemed to be overshadowed by an ominous cloud. The heart of the city, usually alive with the sound of merchants and laughter, had fallen silent. Word spread quickly through the crowded souks and narrow streets. The once peaceful region was teetering on the brink of war. The neighboring emirates, long bound by fragile alliances and shared interests, were now at odds, each kingdom vying for control and power. What had been a peaceful period of coexistence was now shrouded in the dark uncertainty of conflict. Merchants whispered in hushed tones about skirmishes along the trade routes. Rumors of raids and border clashes grew more frequent with each passing day. The markets, which had once thrived with the barter of spices, textiles, and precious metals, now seemed subdued, the vibrancy of their trade dampened by fear. The common folk spoke of distant battle cries reaching their ears at night, and some began to fear for their homes, their families, and the very fabric of their society. Even the most optimistic souls could no longer deny that something darker was stirring just beyond the city walls. In the midst of this unrest, the figure who had long been the city's calm and steady hand, Emir Salah, found himself standing at a precipice. The governor of Damascus was a man of wisdom and pragmatism, a ruler who had steered the city through times of both prosperity and hardship with a steady hand. Yet, even his seasoned mind struggled to find a way through the growing divide. The emir's heart ached as he observed the rising tension, knowing that his city, and perhaps the entire region, was on the brink of disaster. Emir Salah was not a man who relied solely on the strength of his army or the weight of his authority to solve problems. He understood that the true power of a society lay in its unity, in the bonds that tied its people together. He knew that a kingdom divided could not stand for long, no matter how mighty its army or prosperous its economy. In this moment of peril, the emir realized that the one thing that could still hold the people together was their shared heritage, their collective identity, and the unifying power of art. It was then that Jameel's name came to mind. The weaver, whose carpet of unity had captivated the hearts of so many, was known far and wide not just for his skill, but for his ability to weave stories of history and culture into his tapestries. Jameel's art transcended mere decoration, it spoke to the soul, reminding all who gazed upon it of the common threads that bound them together. Emir Salah knew that if anyone could inspire unity in such a fractured time, it was the humble weaver. With resolve, the emir summoned Jameel to the palace, where the air was thick with tension, the once gleaming marble halls now reflecting the anxiety that gripped the city. When Jameel entered the grand courtyard, he was greeted not by a lavish display of wealth, but by the solemn gaze of the emir, who stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "Master Jameel," Emir Salah began, his voice steady but laced with urgency, "your carpet of unity has the power to remind us of our shared heritage. It has the potential to heal the rifts between us, to remind our people of the bonds we all share. I ask you to weave another masterpiece, one that will not only celebrate our unity but also reignite the spirit of peace and reconciliation among the warring factions. A tapestry that will bring the leaders of the different emirates to the table and remind them that we are all one, despite our differences." Jameel, though deeply honored by the emir's request, felt a weight settle upon his shoulders. This was not simply another commission, it was a call to preserve the very essence of the land he loved. He had spent his life weaving tales of history and hope, but now he was being asked to weave something much larger, something that could alter the course of the future. "Your Excellency," Jameel replied, his voice quiet but filled with resolve, "I am humbled by your request. But I must ask, what is it that I must weave to bring such a divided land together? I cannot simply stitch a tapestry of patterns and colors. To create something that speaks to all, I will need the stories of all our people, their joys, their struggles, their triumphs, and their heartaches. Only then can I create something that is truly reflective of our shared past and hopes for the future." Emir Salah nodded solemnly. You are right, Master Jameel. A tapestry such as the one you speak of must be rooted in the lives and hearts of our people. I will send messengers to the farthest corners of the land to gather the stories you seek. From the desert sands of the Bedouins to the bustling markets of the city, from the farmers in the fertile valleys to the scholars in the great libraries, every voice must be heard. Only then can we hope to find the threads that will bind us together once more. And so, messengers were dispatched throughout the region, traveling from village to village, from town to town, gathering tales from the people of all walks of life. The stories poured in: a merchant's journey across treacherous mountains, a farmer's tale of hardship and bounty, a soldier's account of battle, a poet's lament for lost friends, and a mother's wish for peace. Each story was different, yet all were bound by the same thread of hope, a hope for a better future, where the wounds of the past could be healed, and where peace could reign once again. As Jameel began to sift through these stories, he realized the enormity of the task before him. Each tale was a world unto itself, rich with emotion, pain, and hope. He knew that his loom would not simply weave cloth, but the very essence of the land, its soul, its memories, and its dreams. It was a daunting challenge, but Jameel had always believed that through his craft, he could speak to the hearts of others, bridging gaps where words alone had failed. Night after night, Jameel sat by his loom, sketching designs, choosing colors, and pondering the stories he had received. Each thread, each pattern, would be a tribute to the people who had shared their tales with him. The tapestry that would emerge from his loom would not only be a work of art, it would be a symbol of hope, a beacon of peace, and a testament to the resilience of a people who refused to be torn apart. But as Jameel worked, the tension in Damascus continued to grow. The discord between the emirates deepened, and the streets of the city grew quieter, more tense. In the marketplace, where once there had been laughter and lively trade, there was now only suspicion and distrust. Families began to withdraw into their homes, fearing the spread of violence. The once thriving city was now a place on the edge, where the delicate thread of unity seemed to be unraveling. Jameel, however, remained resolute. He knew that the tapestry he was weaving would not be finished overnight, that it would take time, patience, and the collective effort of all who believed in the power of unity. But even as the kingdom seemed to crumble around him, Jameel believed in the power of art to transcend the divisions of the world. Through his loom, he would weave a future that could mend the fractured heart of his homeland. And so, as the sun set over the city of Damascus, Jameel continued his work, the threads of the carpet of unity growing longer, more intricate, and more powerful with each passing day. His loom, though humble, held the promise of peace, and in the quiet sanctuary of his workshop, the weaver wove a story that would change the fate of his people. Chapter 3: Threads of Hope. Jameel's workshop, once a quiet haven where the rhythmic clack of his loom provided solace, had transformed into a vibrant center of activity. Over the months, it became a sanctuary for the soul of the region, where voices from all walks of life converged. Farmers arrived, their hands calloused from years of toil, recounting tales of abundance and famine. Poets, their words dripping with emotion, painted pictures of love, loss, and longing. Soldiers, burdened by the scars of battle, shared stories of camaraderie and the unspoken hope for a day without war. Scholars and artisans, traders and shepherds, all came, carrying with them the threads of their lives to offer to Jameel. Every story was unique, yet they all wove together into a larger narrative of resilience and shared humanity. Jameel listened intently, his heart swelling with both pride and sorrow. He marveled at the courage of his people, at their ability to endure and hope despite the trials they faced. Each story was a thread, a delicate strand of emotion, history, and aspiration. Together, they would form the fabric of a new vision for the land, one where unity triumphed over division. The process of weaving became almost sacred. By day, Jameel's loom worked tirelessly, guided by his skilled hands and creative vision. By night, he pored over sketches and symbols, contemplating how best to honor the stories he had heard. Every thread was chosen with care, every color imbued with meaning. Deep green symbolized the fertile lands and the farmers who nurtured them. Warm gold reflected the light of knowledge passed down through scholars and poets. Rich blues represented the rivers and trade routes that connected the region, while bold red spoke of the courage and sacrifice of its people. As the tapestry grew on his loom, so too did its significance. It was no longer just a work of art, it was a living, breathing testament to the spirit of the region. It depicted scenes that were both familiar and profound, farmers sowing seeds under a golden sun, scholars debating philosophy beneath ancient olive trees, and artisans crafting their wares in the bustling marketplaces. In the borders of the tapestry, intricate geometric patterns intertwined, representing the interconnectedness of the emirates and their shared heritage. Word of the tapestry spread far and wide. Travelers brought news of Jameel's work to neighboring villages and cities. Soon, people from all corners of the land began to flock to his workshop, eager to catch a glimpse of the masterpiece in progress. They came not only to admire the artistry but to find solace in its message. The tapestry became a beacon of hope, a reminder that the fractures tearing at the region could be mended. Jameel's workshop, once a modest and unassuming space, became a place of gathering and healing. Strangers who had never met before found themselves sitting side by side, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. The tapestry seemed to work a quiet magic, fostering conversations and connections that might otherwise have been impossible. Old rivalries softened, and the seeds of reconciliation began to take root. For Jameel, the work was deeply personal. Each time he passed his fingers over the threads, he thought of the people who had entrusted him with their stories. The farmer who had lost his crops to a harsh winter but still found joy in the laughter of his children. The soldier who carried the memory of his fallen comrades like a wound, yet dreamed of a future where his son would never know the horrors of war. The poet whose verses spoke of love unbroken by time or distance. Jameel wove their lives into the tapestry, ensuring that their voices would never be forgotten. As the tapestry neared completion, its impact was already palpable. The city of Damascus, once tense and fractured, began to show signs of healing. The markets grew livelier as people ventured out with renewed optimism. Children played in the streets again, their laughter echoing like music through the city's alleys. The governor, Emir Salah, noticed the change and felt a glimmer of hope that the tapestry could indeed achieve what armies and treaties had failed to do. One afternoon, as Jameel worked on the final section of the tapestry, a delegation arrived at his workshop. They came from the farthest reaches of the region, emissaries from the warring emirates, merchants, and spiritual leaders. They had heard of the carpet of unity and had come to witness it themselves. As they stepped into the workshop, their eyes widened at the sight of the tapestry stretching across the loom. Its vibrant colors and intricate design seemed almost alive, pulsating with the stories and emotions of an entire people. "This is more than a tapestry," one of the emissaries murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "This is who we are." Jameel looked up from his loom, his face lined with exhaustion but glowing with quiet pride. "It is not just my work," he said humbly. "This tapestry belongs to all of us. Every thread, every symbol, represents the lives and dreams of our people. It is a reminder that we are stronger together than apart." The delegation spent hours in the workshop, marveling at the tapestry and listening to Jameel recount the stories woven into its fabric. They saw themselves in its patterns, their struggles and triumphs mirrored in its threads. By the time they left, they carried with them not only the memory of its beauty but also a renewed commitment to finding a peaceful resolution to their conflicts. In the days that followed, Jameel added the finishing touches to the tapestry. The final threads were woven with the utmost care, their placement a reflection of hope for the future. When the last knot was tied, Jameel stepped back and gazed at the completed work. It was breathtaking, a masterpiece that captured the essence of a people and their land. The carpet of unity was unveiled in a grand ceremony, attended by people from every corner of the region. As the tapestry was unfurled, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. For a moment, there was silence, followed by a wave of applause, cheers, and tears. It was as though the tapestry had spoken directly to their hearts, reminding them of the bonds that united them. From that day forward, the tapestry became a symbol of hope and reconciliation. It was displayed in the grand hall of the governor's palace, where leaders from the emirates gathered to discuss peace. Under its gaze, they began to set aside their differences, inspired by the stories woven into its threads. The tapestry, born of the struggles and dreams of a fractured land, became the foundation of a new era of unity and understanding. Chapter 4: The Gathering. The grand hall of the emir's palace, a room of soaring arches and gilded decor, was abuzz with anticipation. Rumors of the carpet of unity had spread far beyond the borders of Damascus, reaching even the most distant corners of the region. It was said that the tapestry had the power to heal divisions, to remind even the most embittered hearts of their shared humanity. For months, the palace had prepared for this day, and now, under the flickering glow of countless lanterns, the moment had arrived. The leaders of the warring factions arrived in solemn procession. Their retinues trailed behind them, banners fluttering with the symbols of their houses. The air was thick with suspicion and tension, each step into the hall weighed down by decades of grievances and mistrust. They entered from opposite doors, their eyes carefully avoiding one another. The atmosphere was brittle, a silence so heavy it seemed that even a whisper could shatter it. Emir Salah, standing at the center of the hall, raised his hands to address the assembly. "Leaders, honored guests, and people of our land," he began, his voice calm but resolute, "we gather here not as rivals, but as heirs to a shared history. Today, I present to you the carpet of unity, a testament to our collective strength and spirit. Let it remind us of what we stand to gain, and what we risk losing." At a signal, the heavy silk curtain that concealed the tapestry was drawn back. The hall fell silent. For a moment, it was as though the room itself held its breath. Then the tapestry was revealed in all its glory, stretching across the grand wall like a living mosaic of color and meaning. The leaders stood transfixed, their expression shifting from guarded suspicion to awe. The carpet of unity was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its vibrant hue seemed to glow under the lantern light, each thread telling a story. There were farmers tending to golden fields, scholars debating under the shade of olive trees, artisans at their craft, and families breaking bread together. Interwoven throughout were patterns of rivers and roads, connecting the diverse scenes into one cohesive whole. At its center was an intricate sunburst, symbolizing hope and renewal. For the first time in years, the leaders' gazes met, not with hostility, but with shared recognition. They saw their own people reflected in the tapestry, the farmer's toil, the soldier's sacrifices, the poet's dreams. These were not just images, they were the lives of those they represented, the lives they had sworn to protect. As the silence lingered, Emir Salah stepped forward. "This tapestry is not just art," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "It is a mirror. It reflects who we are and what we aspire to be. It reminds us that we are stronger together than apart. Now, I ask you to speak, not as adversaries, but as stewards of our shared destiny." The leaders hesitated, the weight of their divisions pressing heavily upon them. Then, one by one, they began to speak. At first, their words were measured and cautious. They aired their grievances, listing the slights and betrayals that had fueled their animosities. The room seemed to tense, as though the tapestry itself absorbed the pain and bitterness of their words. But as they spoke, something remarkable began to happen. The tapestry's imagery, its farmers, scholars, artisans, and families, seemed to exert a quiet influence. It was as if the leaders could feel the eyes of their people, those they had been entrusted to serve, watching them through the threads. The grievances gave way to confessions of loss, a son lost in battle, a harvest ruined by war, a trade route abandoned to decay. The dialogue, once strained and brittle, began to flow. The leaders spoke not as rivals, but as individuals bound by the same struggles and hopes. They shared dreams of a future where farmers could till their fields in peace, where trade routes thrived, and where their children could grow without fear. "Perhaps we have forgotten," one leader said, his voice heavy with regret, "that we are all sons and daughters of this land. The tapestry reminds us of this truth." Another leader nodded. "The people in these threads, they do not fight for division. They labor for unity, for prosperity. Perhaps we owe them the same." As the conversations deepened, the mood in the hall shifted. Suspicion gave way to understanding, and tension softened into a fragile but growing trust. The tapestry, with its vibrant threads and stories, had done what years of treaties and negotiations could not. It had reminded the leaders of their shared humanity. Jameel, standing quietly at the back of the hall, watched the scene unfold with a mix of exhaustion and pride. He had poured his soul into the tapestry, weaving into its fabric not just the stories of the people, but his own hopes for peace. Now, seeing its impact, he felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The threads he had so carefully chosen and woven had become a bridge, connecting hearts, mending rifts, and kindling hope. The gathering stretched into the night, the leaders speaking and listening with a sincerity that had long been absent. By the time the lanterns burned low, a tentative agreement had been reached, a ceasefire, a commitment to dialogue, and a promise to rebuild together. As the leaders departed, they paused before the tapestry, their gazes lingering on its intricate designs. They left the hall not as enemies, but as men and women who had glimpsed a future worth striving for. The carpet of unity remained in the grand hall, a symbol of hope and a reminder of what could be achieved when people chose to listen and understand. It became a pilgrimage site, where travelers from across the region came to witness its beauty and draw inspiration from its message. In the days that followed, the ripple effect of the gathering spread. The people of the region, hearing of the leaders' accord, began to rebuild their lives with renewed vigor. Farmers returned to their fields, traders to their roots, and artisans to their crafts. The city of Damascus buzzed with the promise of a brighter future. And in his humble workshop, Jameel continued to weave. For though the carpet of unity had been completed, he knew that the work of peace was never truly done. There were always more stories to tell, more threads to weave, and more hope to inspire. Chapter 5: A Legacy Woven. The peace that followed the unveiling of the carpet of unity was hard-won and fragile, the result of months of intense negotiations, careful diplomacy, and, most importantly, a newfound understanding between the once bitter factions. At first, the process was slow and fraught with setbacks. Old grudges lingered like scars on the skin of the region, and the leaders, while willing to engage in dialogue, still struggled to let go of their mistrust. But the tapestry had sparked something deep within them, a reminder of what they stood to lose, and what they could achieve together. The first breakthrough came when the leaders of the warring factions agreed to a ceasefire. It was not a permanent peace, but it was a beginning. A fragile truce held the land in balance as negotiations continued, and slowly, over time, the rifts between the factions began to heal. What had once been seen as an insurmountable divide started to feel like a shared challenge, something that could be overcome if only they worked together. Jameel, ever humble, watched from the sidelines, his role in the peace process understated yet profound. He had never sought recognition or fame. His passion had always been in the act of creation, in weaving threads into something greater than the sum of their parts. And yet, his carpet of unity had become more than just a work of art. It had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of possibility. The tapestry had captured the essence of the region's struggles and dreams, and through its simple beauty, it had touched the hearts of all who saw it. As the peace talks progressed, the tapestry was enshrined in the grand hall of the Emir's palace, placed in a position of honor where all could see it. The woven masterpiece became a permanent fixture in the city's history, a testament to the strength of unity and resilience. Emir Salah often stood before it, his gaze fixed on the intricate patterns, as though drawing inspiration for the challenges still ahead. The leaders, now working together, made a collective vow to honor the spirit of the tapestry, and over time, that vow transformed into action. Trade routes that had once been abandoned reopened, the exchange of goods and ideas slowly becoming a bridge between distant lands. The farmers returned to their fields with renewed vigor, their harvests thriving in an atmosphere of peace. Artisans, inspired by the tapestry, began to create works that reflected the diversity and beauty of their people, their crafts infused with the same spirit of unity that Jameel had woven into his masterpiece. Word of the carpet of unity spread far and wide, reaching the ears of distant rulers and leaders from lands once untouched by the conflict. Delegations arrived from other regions, eager to see the tapestry and learn from the example it set. They came not only to admire its craftsmanship, but to understand its deeper message, that unity could be achieved not by erasing differences, but by embracing them, by recognizing the strength found in diversity. In time, the carpet of unity became a symbol for the entire region, one that transcended the borders of Damascus and reached into neighboring emirates, even distant kingdoms. Stories were told of how one simple tapestry had been the spark that ignited a fire of reconciliation, a fire that continued to burn brightly long after the last thread was woven. The tapestry was replicated in other places, sometimes as a tapestry, sometimes in other forms of art, as a reminder that unity is not the absence of difference, but the coming together of those differences to form something stronger, something more beautiful. For Jameel, the recognition and acclaim were both humbling and overwhelming. He had never sought fame or honor, his heart had always been with his craft. But seeing the impact of his work, seeing how it had touched the lives of so many, brought him a quiet sense of fulfillment. He continued to work in his small workshop, though now it was more bustling than ever. People came from all corners of the land to meet the weaver who had changed the course of history. Some came to see the artist behind the masterpiece, others, seeking his wisdom, asked him to weave a future of peace for their own regions. Jameel welcomed them all, but he did not consider himself a hero. He was a craftsman, a humble man who believed in the power of art to transform lives. As he sat at his loom, his hands moving deftly through the threads, he often thought back to the moment when he had first received the commission to create the carpet of unity. He had been filled with doubt and uncertainty then, unsure if he could create something that would live up to the task. But now, as he worked on new pieces, he felt a quiet confidence, a belief that, no matter how small or simple, every thread could contribute to a greater whole. The years passed, and Jameel's reputation only grew. He continued to create tapestries that captured the spirit of his people, each one telling a different story, each one a reflection of the land's beauty and complexity. Yet, the carpet of unity remained his most beloved work, the one that had changed everything. It was no longer just a piece of art, it had become a part of the collective memory of the region, a story that would be told for generations to come. And so, the story of Jameel and his tapestry became a cherished legend, passed down through the ages. Parents would gather their children around the hearth and tell them the tale of the weaver who had brought peace through his art. The tapestry became an enduring symbol, not just of the peace it had helped bring about, but of the belief that even the smallest act of creation could change the course of history. In the years that followed, the region flourished. The legacy of unity remained strong, upheld by the leaders who had come together in the shadow of the tapestry. The people, inspired by Jameel's work, continued to weave their own lives together, finding strength in their diversity and unity in their shared humanity. And Jameel, content in the knowledge that his craft had made a difference, continued to weave, each thread a testament to the power of hope, the strength of community, and the enduring belief that, no matter how great the divide, it could always be bridged by the threads of unity. The carpet of unity remained in the grand hall of the palace, a timeless symbol of what could be achieved when people chose to listen, to understand, and to work together. And as long as it hung there, the legacy of Jameel, the humble weaver, would endure, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, and there is always the possibility of peace.